I got to talk to Tommy about a month ago
Yeah.
about Room for Rent, and he had nothing but glowing things to say about you.
Well, thank you. I feel the same towards him. I mean, we really had kind of an ideal setup and situation, which I don't even think we knew we had. You know, sometimes you plan and you want it to be so perfect, and things fall apart in some ways. And this was sort of the opposite. I mean, everything really sort of fell into place. It was a small cast and crew and one location, basically. And, well, we had a couple, but the main location was the house. And it really became sort of, every morning you get up and I'd go to my chair with my Kleenex, and my pencil, and, sort of have breakfast and do the work, and then we would start to shoot. And Tommy's a wonderful collaborator and I think a really gifted guy in many respects. So I was really excited about what we kind of revealed in terms of story, and he was very very helpful to me in terms of allowing me to let that character kind of bloom, and I hope you liked it.
Oh yeah, I did. There were certain parts, your performance, it was just so terrifying in one way and then very, very saddening. It was just this flip-flop between the two, just as Joyce's emotions kind of go on this roller coaster. I'm just like, wow, I am so tore up watching this character either suffer or plot or succeed.
Really? Oh, well, that makes me feel really excellent. That makes me feel great.
When Tommy brought the script to you, because he said that you were his one and only choice for Joyce, how did he pitch the script to you?
Well, I was actually in the middle of shooting another film, and he sent me the script. I did one film. The first film I did with Tommy was Hate Crime, and to this day I actually have to ask him how did we meet each other on that, and I have a feeling. It was based on some real people that he knew, and I think he thought I looked like this woman who I was playing, and I looked like the real person to him a little bit. So he reached out to me, and we shot Hate Crime, and it did really very well. It was accepted into a lot of different festivals and very well received. So I'd worked with him that one time. And then I was shooting another film, and I hadn't heard from him. I mean, we didn't really stay in touch. We would do the work and give each other big hugs, and we love each other, and I'll see you soon, and that would be it. So it's not like I'd been in touch with him at all. So I was kind of surprised too when he sent me the material, and I didn't really like it, to be honest. The way it was written originally, it was. You knew the end from the beginning. I mean, it was basically this woman who was a killer, and she'd killed her husband, and she was going to be on this. And it wasn't. There was nothing engaging to me about it in terms of the growth of the character. So I said, I'm not interested. I really, I love you, and but this is not the one. So that was that. And then probably a year or so more went by, and I was back home, and he sent it to me. He said, would you take another look at that script? And I said, sure. So he sent it over, and I reread it, and my only thought was, what did I hate about it so much? I mean, that was my first response, and I thought it's not as bad as I thought it was, but it's just not interesting to me. So, so I called him up, and we sort of started talking, and it was kind of on. It kind of evolved as we were speaking. I said, what if this woman, I said, from the get-go, what if this woman is not a killer, that she's driven to this by circumstances? And I started sort of feeding on that, and I thought, what if this woman has been maybe held sort of captive socially by her husband, that she's the woman in the house, and she does the laundry and cooks his meals, and sews on his buttons, and there's not much love in their life, particularly. She serves a purpose for him. And we all know there's a lot of couples in the world like that, and that there's a lot of silent couples and women who live that life, now, right this minute. And I thought that's interesting to me that when he dies, whether you think she killed him or not, that's up to you guys. I mean, whatever the audience may think. In my mind, she did not kill him, that he dies of a heart attack. And she's left not knowing how to navigate her life because someone has 100% kept her sort of in the kitchen, more or less. And what do you do, where she's all of a sudden got debt, she goes to the bank. I mean, that was kind of I actually did kind of rewrite that scene where she says, I came for some money. As far as she knows, you go to the bank, you ask for some money, and they give you some money. She didn't even really understand about accounts or, how you live a modern life. And that's sort of what emerged, and the more we sort of let her evolve, that was the takeoff point for me, and that the secret life was abuse, and as I said, sort of being confined to her home, basically, that she doesn't go out much. There are little elements that I don't know if it reads to you guys, but that she's a little bit OCD. I mean, not to a point of, clinical. I mean, she's clinical in a lot of other ways, but, that the way she walks across the street or the way she walks across a curb, she wears these very unattractive, rudimentary little outfits that are almost like institutional, and that was a choice, too. I talked to Paula Rogers, who did the wonderful wardrobe, and we had a ball because I said, we've got to show this character evolve through wardrobe because her secret life is romance because she has had none. And and she has the same book. And those were all my ideas. So I'm very encouraged and excited by the fact that those were elements that came forward in the story. That she kind of, it's like a record in her head. She replays that same book over and over. That's her solace, that's her love life, really. And that the things she does are not out of malice as much as out of curiosity. I mean, even that one, my favorite scene in the movie, is when she looks through Oliver's toiletries. And I mean, that just was we didn't rehearse that or anything. That just was what I thought to do. That these are things from someone she wants to be close to. They're intimate objects. What would you do with them? Except try to be. That's how she was going to start to feel intimate towards this person, that she had a physical relationship with him. And it started when this was also my thought, when she pours him the coffee and she stirs it and licks the spoon and puts it back in the cup. It's like a dog sort of marking its territory. He won't ever know I did it, but I do. And
everything was just so new to her.
Exactly.
It was like she was discovering intimacy.
Totally. And thank you for that. I mean, yes, that's exactly correct. She had no experience. Zero. And the fact that she was pregnant, well, was she raped? Was it a moment where he raped her? Did she get raped by somebody else? I just wanted it to be clear that this man did not want children. And that was the final straw for him when she in my mind, she never even tells him she's pregnant, that it's finally he notices. Because she doesn't even really know what that is. I mean, she knows, that was probably the only sex she ever had in her whole life. And again, as an actress, I've sort of been trained also, you make your circumstances extreme because that gives you behavior. It's not maybe. It's like this is what you have to make a choice about something. If you want a certain element in the character, you have to make strong choices about what happened that created that behavior. And I even wanted it stronger than Tommy ended up putting in the story. When the neighbor tells Sarah, that he made her get rid of it, I had written something stronger, that he actually threw her downstairs and she lost the baby. that he was violent with her. And I still think that's that's how I see it. That's what I saw happening. So my hatred for my husband is even stronger, because of that. That again, it sort of exaggerates the circumstances. So I forgot the question. I got so carried away telling you an answer. But I love, as you could tell, I love the character, and I feel very emboldened and strengthened by having the choices that I saw in my creative scenario be the ones that people really responded to. I mean, that gave, even after all these years, that has given me sort of a new strength in terms of my own courage, really believing in that, because I get weird ideas, and I realize I'm a little bit weird, But you know what? Good for me. And you know what? We all are a little bit weird. But we have a face we have to wear every day, so you have to do it. But we all really, I like to believe I've learned how to tap in to that sort of unspoken stuff that people think about or don't want to think about, but put it out there, which is part of what you hope you do as an artist. You try to stimulate elements in people that they don't stimulate for themselves often. So I love the movie. I love Tommy for letting me thrive, and the feedback. I've never gotten reviews like that for anything, and that's in 48 years of working. I mean, those reviews are insane.
It's definitely different. It's unlike anything that I've seen, and I get movies across my desk like 5 a day.
Wow. Well, then I'm really proud.
Sometimes you get them, you're just kind of like, okay, it's an independent movie. It's got all the independent movie tropes. Okay. Then you see this movie about Joyce, and you're just like, wow, I feel so bad for it. At the end, you're like, I am deadly afraid of her.
That you know what? That's unanimously been sort of the comment, is that you sort of like her and want to help her in the beginning, and then she's creepy. She ends up being really creepy, and then she's scary. So that's a pretty great journey for a character when you think about it.
You don't see that very often. You don't see a main character go through this kind of change, and she's still your only main character. That is your viewpoint into this movie.
Right.
And you have to be with her journey no matter where it takes
whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
True.
I noticed that, like, in the beginning, like you were saying, that she is very encapsulated. She is just in her own little insecure bubble through almost everything. Even the bad things that happen to her, she's still very contained until a certain point.
Right.
How did you get into the headspace that Joyce is in and retain it to show it to the rest of us? That had to be very taxing at some point on you.
It is in a certain kind of way, but it's also very elating when you make discovery for the character. Mm-hmm. It's a very mixed. Acting is really, it's really hard and really fun and really investigative and revealing. I mean, it reveals to me about myself some of the time. And the best times for me are when I surprise myself, when I sort of follow the story, because you can't just be, there's a million ways to play the same scene or to say those lines or whatever it is, but to be true to the story that you're telling. And when there's moments that surprise me, those are the most exciting for me as an actress. The one thing that was written, actually I forgot to mention this, the thing that made me want to do this story, with all the sort of routine blah 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 that was in it, and the dialogue was okay, but it wasn't. I thought there was we emboldened it a little bit when we did the scenes. It was written in the scene with the guys, with the boys who harass her sexually, it was written that she kisses them on the mouth, and I thought that was brilliant. I mean, I just thought that was brilliant. For that response, for this writer to have that be her response, was almost out of character with the rest of the way everything was written. But that moment, I went, oh my God, that's incredible. And the only thing we changed is, because it said in the script that she kisses him on the mouth and he slaps her. And I said to Tommy, she slaps him back. And that's what, because she could have retreated, but she didn't. That was the moment that breaks her back. And that she acted out. That was a violent thing she did against, there was violence being perpetrated on her. She reacted in kind, in a very unsavory, that's all, this kid's like a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid, and she's, and that she grabs him and kisses him on the mouth. How disgusting. But it is the perfect response to what was happening. And that scene had one of those moments for me that crossed over, where your body, I also often say this, your body does not know you're pretending. Your mind, you can, you keep yourself safe by recognizing you're telling a story and you're acting. But your body, real things happen. You start sweating, you start shaking, your adrenaline pumps up to volumes that are unexplainable, and that was one of those moments for me. That was I remember as it was happening, it was like things sort of came out of my mouth, and just physically the physical manifestation of my personal violation was really extreme, and I was shaking. I mean, it took me a little bit of time to come back from that scene. So it's kind of cathartic in a way, and it's always exciting too, because you know that you have something that's both pretend and real at the same time. And so it was it's a very exciting moment for an actress.
When you have to kind of calm yourself down from the physical aspect of it, do you have a certain method that you use, or you just go sit and be quiet and just let it naturally come down?
You kind of let it naturally come down. And I mean, everybody around us, including Tommy, and Tommy is a very quiet man. I've never heard him raise his voice. I don't think ever. He's just that guy. He'll speak loudly so you can hear him, but he doesn't lose his cool, and he's very aware at the same time of what you're going through. And that's a great quality as a director, I have to admit, to be able to acknowledge the truth of what it is you're trying to tell as an actress and as a character, and to also sort of create a safe space to relax and come down. I mean, he was aware that we needed a moment to sort of regroup. And it's interesting too, the take where Ryan hits me, and there's a way to do a stage. It's a stage slap, basically. The one who's slapping doesn't sell it. You're the person who's receiving the slap is what they call the one who sells it. I'm the one that throws my head. He misses me. I mean, you rehearse it enough, so there's a timing element where it looks like he's hitting you, but basically he doesn't touch me. And I throw my head in a certain way and have a response that makes it look like he did. I mean, that's how it's supposed to work. Well, in the take they used, I didn't turn quick enough, and he hit me. And so that was that, and it was totally perfect, because it was interesting. It wasn't like ow. It wasn't like one of those. It was ow. It was. I mean, even when I see it and hear it, I remember getting hit. The response was, which was perfect, because then when I slug him back, it's like he pulled, that made me very angry to get hit in the jaw, so it's all kinds of, there are all kinds of elements that you hope make a scene happen and work, and that Tommy, again, was very steady and calm and supportive. and pretty much only said what he meant to say. You know, Tommy's one of these people. He doesn't just jabber. You know, there's a lot of people that just jabber. I kind of just jabber. I'm not proud of it, but it's the truth. But Tommy doesn't jabber. Tommy says what he means, and then he's done talking. So that's actually quite wonderful because you know exactly where you stand with what it is that you're doing.
When Joyce was starting to break out of her shell a little bit, when she has those first two tenants that come in, and you get to do that little bit of the you can't have a cookie because you're too fat. Was Joyce intentionally being mean, or was she just being kind of being jovial without understanding the social cues of that may not be the nicest thing to say?
Well, he wasn't very nice to her.
Yeah,
that she
correct.
was totally responding. He said, "This is my room," and I said, "Well, this is my house, and these are my cookies." You know, no. So she took it all very literally. It wasn't she was being mean, and she was saying he should only eat one because he's a little fat. She's very frank. I mean, she was also retaliating in some way because he was very disrespectful to her.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be how she would respond. That would be how she would protect herself. And she was
that
just
is
being
one
honest.
of my favorite moments of that whole movie. It was so perfect.
I really like it myself. And again, that was, you know, this was me. I mean, I feel very proud of the way I invest in the character that I'm creating, and it sort of, if you let it sort of creates itself if you set yourself up correctly. Mm-hmm. And this was one of those. This had that feeling to it. You know, even with the coming up the stairs, left, right, 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 right. You know, she kind of turned it into a little song, and that was also just sort of, that was Joyce. Joyce kind of emerged. I mean, she really did. I gave her a heartbeat, and she kind of took over.
A lot of your performance really reminded me of my mother when I see her with my daughter.
Wow.
A lot of the same things. So it was interesting watching it because I can't watch any of these films with my daughter, so I kind of have to segregate myself in my studio and
right.
watch everything. But just watching that, I was like, it's so uncanny just to watch these same little gestures and these same things that my mother does with my daughter. It was just
hilarious.
It was heartwarming. At the same time, I was like, could my mother
be horrifying.
This terrifying? I don't want to spoil the ending for people that are going to see it, but where do you see Joyce going after her emergence from her shell?
That's a great question. I don't really know because I haven't really thought about where does she go. You know, she may end up at a Motel 6 somewhere. You know, and use their swimming pool and come home. I mean, I whether she really ever makes it to anywhere. You know, she's got a little bit of money. We sort of figured that out, that the money, where the money comes from, which is, you know, sort of shown in the film. And so she's got some money, but not knowing anything. I mean, that's actually a very funny idea, that she really never gets anywhere. Maybe that's the sequel. You know, she ends up in a Motel 6 at the airport. You know, the driver takes her to the airport, but she doesn't have any idea where the plane is. Or, you know, I mean, it depends how much she really has learned about the world, because that's a big trip to get ready to go to Europe, you know, by yourself, or she's got luggage, but, you know, actually that's actually a very interesting thought. I should mention it to Tommy.
She didn't even have a passport, I don't think. So I was
exactly. Like, well, how would she know how to get a passport?
She's just going to board a random plane and end up somewhere. Really.
She just is at the gate and convinces people to let her on the plane, because she's got a ticket somewhere. I mean, she's going someplace, I think, but whether she really ends up going anywhere particular. So your guess is as good as mine.
I would like to see a sequel where she sets up her own bed and breakfast and just casually offs people to take their money to to perpetrate her.
All kinds of things could happen because she's not a killer. I mean, she's not. She's not. That's something I didn't want people. That was what I didn't like about the first script. I think what my idea was to show what people can be driven to do in an unstable situation where they're fighting for their life. I mean, she really was fighting for her life in a way. And, it was like when people asked me sort of for a log line, for me the log line was, it's a woman's descent into madness, based on her circumstances. It was not like she was a psychotic. I never for a moment thought of her as a psychotic killer. She hated that woman next door because she had a reason to, and she was finally able to express it. When things are bottled up in people, good things do not happen.
I think if she had any knowledge of the outside world, it probably wouldn't have worked as a story, but she needed that naivety to kind of shield her from whatever action she did take. It made it more or less forgivable. Right.
Well, that's, really. Not really, but sort of, she did not operate out of hatred, really. It was out of impulse, it was because she finally was allowed to have impulses.
Was it liberating for you in any sense once the film wrapped and you got to play this character? Did you feel a bit freer?
Not really. I mean, it's. I mean, work is it's hard. I mean, acting is not so easy, and this was a wonderful set of circumstances in the sense that I was staying in a nice situation in Sedona, and again, everything was very well organized. We had good food. Everything was made as amicable and comfortable as possible. The work is taxing in some ways, but it's also very fulfilling. I mean, adrenaline is your friend. It tires you out, but it also exhilarates you. So there was nothing about this film that made me go, phew, I'm glad I'm going home. I mean, there really was not at all. I've had that happen, where when we did the third Insidious, I think it was the third one, which was a very depressing release. I mean, it started out where we sort of figured out that she was, or at least this was what I discussed with Lee Winnell, is that she's basically agoraphobic in the beginning, and it was very emotionally taxing. A lot of very emotional scenes, and also the last one had that same. Actually, it was the last one that was the toughest for me, because it was also a 6-week shoot, and I worked every day but 3. And it was a very emotionally charged story, as I'm sure you, if you saw it.
Yep.
But goes back into my past also. And I was really exhausted at the end of it.
My last question is for the people that are trying to start their careers in Hollywood. What would be your advice to those people?
Oh boy, that's a tough question. My advice really is, I would say if you're an actor, make sure you're studying, that you're doing something that gives you a little bit of a release valve also in terms of your emotions and learning how to break down a story and a script. If you're a beginner actor, if you're an actor who's been around for a while and you're trying to break into Hollywood, you got to have a lot of balls. You got to be unafraid to check in with people. It's very different too now than it was probably when I was just getting started. I did theater in New York for many years, for almost 10 years before I never even entertained the idea of coming out to Hollywood. I really didn't. And I was never, so it's hard for me to give anybody an example of how to chart their course, because I think you have to kind of find your own. You have to know what it is you want. If it's to get into films, there's different situations to network with people, to make, even to make a short film for yourself. There's so many avenues that I didn't have, which is, the iPhone. I mean, you can shoot a little film for yourself. Even if it's monologues, there's now a lot of this whole self-taping. I didn't have that when I was getting myself started here. I was very fortunate because I had done all this theater in New York, and I put together a little reel. I can't even remember, but it was, I think I had a couple small TV things. I can't even remember. I do remember. One was a little job for WGBH, which is public broadcasting, that I got to play an immigrant woman with Piper Laurie, those of you who are a little bit older who know this wonderful, wonderful actress from the 50s and 60s, and she was quite famous, is quite famous still. I don't think she's living any longer. You know what? I don't even know that answer. But she played Margaret Sanger, which is interesting. It's very appropriate right now, isn't it? About birth control, that there was no birth control. Yeah. And I played the part of this woman who had tried to give an abortion to herself. No kidding. We should probably put that show back on the air right now. Mm-hmm. And she dies. She kills herself by trying to get rid of this baby. And it was a good scene, so I put something of myself on film. Actually, we didn't. This was a long time ago. I came out to California in 1977, and I have a long story of why I came out here. But when I came, I brought a tape with me. I came out to meet Jack Nicholson. I flew myself out overnight because he had expressed interest in me for Going South, which was a film that he did in 77 with Danny DeVito and John Belushi and Chris Lloyd, a wonderful Western. It's hilarious. It's still a wonderful little film. And so I guess this is an example of what you have to be able to have the courage to do. You have to have a lot of courage and belief in what it is you want and what you can do. They'd been in New York, and I missed meeting him. And it was for a little. He saw my picture somewhere. It was one of those fluky things. It might have been the Academy Players even, which was a directory of actors, and he was probably looking through it or whatever, and my picture maybe caught his eye. So they said he wasn't coming back to New York, so I wrote him a note, and I enclosed a bunch of photos, other photographs of myself, and just wrote him a very nice note. Dear Mr. Nicholson, thank you for your interest. Here's some additional photos. P.S. I plan to be in Los Angeles for a short visit in the next couple of weeks, which was totally bullshit. And he responded. He said, I would love to meet Lin Shaye when she gets to Los Angeles. So I flew out, and literally the next morning, I flew out to L.A. and met him and got one line in the movie and was in Mexico for 2 weeks with all those people, and that was sort of how I started. But what it did was confirm to me proactivity. Write that down big somewhere. Don't be afraid to do anything if you do it with an open heart and with with grace and with respect. Mm-hmm. That everybody will respond to that. Don't be a bully. Don't try and push your way in and, yeah, I'm going to do this. Everybody goes, yeah, right, you're going to do it. Not in my office, you're not. But if you approach things with diligence and respect and total persistence, if you give up, you give up. Then good things can happen even if you give up. But bottom line is, be organized, make lists of casting people you would like to approach, write letters. Now with the a self-tape, if you're trying to meet casting people, they're open to new actors. I mean, they really are. Again, it depends how you approach people. You're not going to get a yes from a lot, but maybe out of 20, you'll get one meeting. Well, one meeting is better than no meeting, and that meeting will precipitate another meeting. So you got to just start somewhere and just keep, don't let go of the balloon string. You just got to keep being persistent, being polite, but know what you want and don't give up. I mean, it's as simple as that. You do not give up. Keep looking for avenues. Be brave and respectful. Those would be the two words I would pull out of that whole conversation.
Lynn, thank you very much for talking to me today. I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this for a long time, and I cannot.
As you can tell, I love talking, and I love talking about what I do because I can't believe I've had success, and that's the truth. I love what I do, and I love it the same way I did when I first started. I have some just appetite to investigate my own world through other people. And as an actor, I guess that's what's of value, And I mean, that just keeps me, I get as excited and scared, by the way. I'm always terrified, by the way. I'm always scared to death because what if I don't do a good job? I mean, it's scary. You put yourself out there. So I hope, thank you for the wonderful interview and for your kind words and your appreciation of my work. That means a ton to me, Mike.
You're very welcome. Thank you again, Lynn, and I can't wait to see what else you have for us in the future.
Well, I got a good thing that just got published today. I'm going to be on a Showtime series. Penny Dreadful is doing a 4th season.
Oh, that's right. It is coming back.
And I've got a fantastic role. So
can you tell us anything about it, or are you under NDA?
Yeah, no, it's in Deadline today and everything. Yeah, I play a Nazi hunter. 1938, New York City, Detroit. 1938, Los Angeles, California. It's shooting here in L.A. It's about the world of Los Angeles when Nazism was still a part of our lives. And you want to know what? It's pretty current. I'm so horrified what's going on right now. Not to get into a political discussion, but I'm horrified. That's all I can say. And this is
it's understandable.
About, holy cow! And this is about a woman who fights against that. I play an 80-year-old woman. I'm excited.
Do you get a special
Dottie
uniform?
Dottie Mintner, and I work with Nathan Lane. I don't know if you know who Nathan Lane is. It's in Deadline today, so I'm not saying I've just now been allowed to talk about it. So